Welcome to East London for the 6th round of the 2016 championship season. And as usual, get ready for some heart-stopping racing. Hi there, I'm Leanne Paulick and welcome to the final round of the Sasol GTC Championship being held at the East London Grand Prix circuit in the Buffalo City Metropolitan Municipality of the Eastern Cape Province. Looking at the current championship standings, Michael Stephen managed to contain Gennaro Bonifidi's current form, while Matthew Hodges gained a spot on Simon Moss to take third place. But it is still a tight battle, and great strides were made by Henny Groenewald, who managed a second-place win in both races, while Johan Fourie showed some pace in his second race. With the championship all but wrapped up for Michael Stephen, there is plenty of racing still to come today.
The championship's pretty much sewn up for myself. If you do the maths, there's no real chance of Gennaro catching up. But third place in the championship is still up for grabs. I think it's between Simon, Henny and Matthew. So, we're focusing on him now. And the practice has gone really well for him. I think he's been quickest in both practice 1 and practice 2. So he needs to fly the flag for the team now, and hopefully he can pull off a pole position.
Mark's already won the championship. I've got to go out there and go as quick as I can, because I've got to try and win both races to get ahead of Matthew in the championship. First and third for the team will be very good.
Going into the Swartkops event, I was behind Simon in the point standings for third, and after the qualifying we had, I thought, there's no ways we're going to be able to catch him, and we actually came out of Swartkops 12 or 18 points somewhere around there ahead of Simon. So I've got to just beat Simon. That's all I got to do.
With all the drama last week, the final race day in East London will certainly be a tight one, with nobody willing to walk away. The drivers and their crews have been hard at work to drain the bugs that plagued them at Swartkops.
Race 1, I managed to get up to third place, and Gennaro clipped my left rear, obviously spinning me, getting me stranded on the gravel, and the safety car had to come out. And then in race 2, I managed to get up to third, and then I had a little issue that a stone clipped my water pump belt and it popped off. So the protection of the ECU cut the motor out, so that obviously put me out of the race. So mechanics have been working day and night for the past 3 days to get us here. We didn't even get our chuck here until this morning on the practice at about 6:30, 7.
We came away Swartkops with a clean car, which I think was the #1 goal. Regardless of results, obviously we're always pushing to win, but the next goal was, guys, we literally have 3 days to prepare the car, not even. Let's keep it clean, let's move it forward to East London, so we've got a nice brand spanking car looking for this race.
Swartkops was a great improvement on my racing. The car went very, very well. We found a whole bunch of time in very small adjustments that we made to the motor car. In fact, I was very, very confident by the end of the day, and we were up and going. Unfortunately, I ran out of talent going into the second corner with regards to sticking 2 wheels on the grass. When I went up the inside of Johan Fourie and then spun it, and unfortunately performed the cardinal sin, which is tag your teammate. You're just never allowed to tag your teammate, and I cocked up Matthew's race as well.
Yeah, Swartkops was quite a tricky weekend. Race 2, not so good, but started off well, started on slicks, and managed to pull about a 5-second lead in the first 5-6 laps until the rain started to fall. So unfortunately the little river coming out of 7 lost the rear end, slid off and just clipped the tyres, but no damage, but unfortunately couldn't get going again.
Looking at the GTC Production Championship points, Daniel Rowe was crowned the GTC Production Champion last week, a great achievement in this young man's career, and he seems destined for great things.
This weekend is just about having fun again, as usual, enjoying it. Not so much pressure, but obviously I still want to win.
While first place may have been decided, there is still a lot to do between Mandla and Charles today.
Yes, well, after Swartkops, we managed to keep Charles behind us, which resulted in, I guess, we got second and given ourselves a little bit of gap. So I guess up to this weekend to collect more points and bridge that gap and just make it a 1-2 for VW.
Well, there's a lot of pride at stake, so we'll be racing for pride, and we'll try to give Daniel a good run for his money.
Well, what a way to end the GTC 2016 inaugural championship season at the East London Grand Prix circuit. The single biggest wide-open throttle section in the country of over 30 seconds, and the single fastest corner in South Africa called Potter's Pass. What a fantastic name, what a historic name in South African motorsport history. The drivers love coming to the East London Grand Prix circuit. The single biggest challenge offered to them, you need to get through these corners unbelievably quickly without compromising any exit speeds, etc. In terms of this circuit layout, you've got high-speed sections with, obviously, as I mentioned, Potter's Pass, and very, very technical sections like the infield complex. So you've got to set your car up to not have understeer in Potter's Pass, but again, not to oversteer in Copacabana Corner as well as Beacon Bend. So we've seen some very, very interesting setup options. Simon Moss was unbelievable yesterday through Potter's Pass, but we are probably looking at all the guys using the data that's been afforded to them, probably looking at their cars to try and run as close to Simon and probably Michael Stephen, who had to repair his car as well. So in terms of tyres, we're using the hard tyres. Tyre wear is not an issue at this circuit. The guys are just going to go as flat out and as hard as they possibly can without putting a foot wrong. But overall, we are glad to be at the East London Grand Prix circuit. It's the fastest circuit in the country, the most power-sensitive and power-hungry circuit that there is. So obviously, engines are vitally important. Make sure you get maximum power without damaging the engines as well. We saw that Michael Stephen had an engine problem yesterday, so look out for those engines. It's vitally, vitally important. Let's catch up with a hot lap.
Yeah, well, Simon Moss welcomes us on board the Engine Extreme Audi S3 on the run down to Potter's Pass, one of the most famous corners in South African motorsports. The corner is taken flat out in these GTC cars there, although not with ease, and depending on the wind conditions, also influencing the stability of the car through Potter's Pass. We're on the way now down to Rifle Corner, which is taken at about 235 kilometers an hour. Much less of a corner than Potter's, but still gives you something to think about. And then hard onto the brakes for Copacabana. Down into first gear, minimum corner speed here of 70 kilometers an hour. And we're going to make our way back up through the gearbox from that first gear right into sixth gear as we make our way up this next long straight towards the complex section of the circuit. We're making our way towards 200 kilometers an hour. It's going to be hard onto the brakes. We're only going to go down 3 gears as we get ready to throw it into the right-hander, get back on the accelerator, into the left-hander, nice direction change there. Can't keep it flat all the way through this section. Onto the brakes, into the next left. And here you want to really get the power on smoothly. Very difficult part of the circuit with all the bumps that are in existence here. You've got to get it right to keep yourself flat through the sweep and exiting the sweep at 180 kilometers an hour. Once again, just proving the cornering speeds of these GTC cars. Up to Beacon Bend and back down into first gear. Another minimum speed of 65 kilometers an hour. Hard onto the accelerator, keep it smooth. You need it down this long straight once again and across the finish line. And that was a lap of the East London Grand Prix circuit with Simon Moss.
Well, it's a first taste of Sasol GTC racing for East London. We're here at sea level. It's a very windy day indeed. And Gary Formato, what are your thoughts on this sort of race we'll have, taking the conditions into account?
Well, it's something that the drivers haven't dealt with this weekend yet. As we can see, as you said, the wind has really come on strong today. And at this particular circuit, it really does affect the cars. It's the fastest track that we have in East London, long straights, a lot of high-speed corners as well. And there are a lot of aerodynamics on the car. So it is going to affect the drivers. Just as to who's going to get an advantage from it, we'll have to wait and see. It's certainly going to play a part when it comes to the slipstreaming when you're behind somebody, and also assists people going forward, so just depending on where the wind is going. So it's extremely difficult. I know from experience down Potters and Rifle, the wind can throw the car around a bit, so it's going to be quite tricky for the drivers today.
Now, as far as the championship goes, we've got Michael Stephen, who is the champion-elect, and he doesn't really need to do anything fancy today. What sort of drive do you think we'll get from him? Do you think he's going to go for it, or will there be something else?
Well, I think there's something else to look for in that team, is that Simon Moss can still finish third in the championship. Now, Simon's second on the grid, as we know, next to Michael. After a very tough weekend, you've got to say, for the team, they've done a great job in getting those cars onto the front of the grid. And I would assume that the thought is going to be to get Simon into third place. Whether that means Michael, may play the team game and actually let Simon go through for the win, we'll have to wait and see. But I think it's very, very hard, to tell somebody like Michael to give up a victory. I mean, he's been the man to beat all year. But I think we may see the team game come into play here.
Well, it's certainly going to be very interesting indeed, but we can't wait for this first race to get underway, so let's see what it brings.
Well, it's the 13th race of the Sasol GTC Championship and nearly the end of a very jam-packed season, with Michael Stephen dominating for pole position and his teammate Simon Moss in second position. The Engine Extreme Audis were quite dominant in all the practice sessions yesterday, showing a clean pair of heels to obviously Gennaro Bonafide and Henny Groenewald in third and fourth position.
And the third row of the grid was held by the VW drivers of Matthew Hodges and Graham Nathan in the two Jettas, looking for a strong result in a circuit that is possibly going to suit them well this weekend.
Yeah, I think overall the actual Jetta shape of the race car shows that it's probably going to be the one circuit that if all the sort of dominoes fall in the right places, Gary, this is the circuit that's going to suit the Volkswagen Jetta.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think the team looking for a strong result, at the end of the season, as we, along with the Gennaro Bonafide, coming up to the start line. Michael Stephen bunching up the field solidly. You can see left foot on the brake, getting the boost control up and ready for that start.
Yeah, I think it's quite important now, and Matthew Hodges running up behind Gennaro Bonafide in third position here as they get on the gas and ready to get going in round 13 of the Sasol GTC Championship. And I think quite important, you've got to gauge the start very well, Gary, because you've got a long run down to Potter's Pass and then all the way through Rifle and to Cochabamba, the first heavy braking point of the circuit. Very, very important to get the timing correct.
Yes, 100%, and this is the fastest right-hander in South African motorsport, the famous Potter's Pass. As we ride along with Gennaro Bonafide, very, very bumpy on the line. He's taking through there slightly towards the inside as they make their way down to Rifle.
Well, you can see Michael Stephen basically slowed a little bit to get Simon Moss up into the first position. They're trying to get Simon into third place in the championship, and he's going to try and hold the guys up as much as feasibly possible. I think a great job from Michael Stephen. He didn't have a particularly good practice sessions yesterday when he had engine issues, Gary, but he put it on pole position quite emphatically and now playing the ultimate team man.
Yeah, it was a solid performance in this morning's qualifying session from Michael Stephen, but you're quite right, playing the team game there. And having chatted to Michael throughout the weekend, there was definitely strong intent to get Simon up there and try and clinch this third place if possible.
Yeah, I must say the Audis were particularly dominant. They had a fantastic setup on their car all the way through from Beacon Bend through to Cochabamba. Was one of the only cars being able to go flat through the famed Potter's Pass corner. But importantly enough, I think the guys behind them have closed the gap, have sorted out their handling as well. As we're on board with Graham Nathan, the guys are using every bit of the road, running on the way up to Beacon Bend. Massive bumps in that complex section, Gary. The guys have got to time and get the line perfectly right. So when you get on the power, the idea is not to get off it.
Yeah, the last thing you want is the rear end start hopping around. Of course, it's going to ruin the traction, and then of course increase the risk of you actually going off the road. There's Henny Groenewald now making a move on Gennaro Bonafide and getting past there. That was all just due to the fact that getting better drive coming out of Beacon, and that's where we always talk about it, but it's so important to get that drive coming out of the corners.
Yeah, and then obviously having the inside line for Potter's Pass has allowed Henny Groenewald to get up the inside of his teammate Gennaro Bonafide. The guys are running extremely close. They're trusting each other that they're not going to do anything silly in those corners there. 216 kilometers an hour minimum corner speed through Potter's Pass as they go flat in sixth gear. These cars are showing a great turn of speed at the East London Grand Prix circuit.
Yeah, and if you've driven any racing car around East London, it's not easy to go flat unless it's a Formula Ford or something like that. To make these sort of cars with the weight that they're at and the speed they're going to go flat through Potters, I think it's a testament to just how well these cars are starting to handle now.
Well, Simon Moss has certainly got the hammer down and moving away from Michael Stephen. Michael playing the ultimate team game, holding up the field as well with Henny Groenewald in close attendance, but a great job there. I think important for Simon to try and finish third in that championship. He's had a very unlucky year so far, but overall when everything aligns for him, he certainly is one of the fastest drivers out there.
You've got to say it's been a good season from a pace point of view for Simon. It's been good. I think showed a lot of people what he's about, and just what next year is going to bring and what the possibilities are for him there. But as you said, Michael Stephen now sort of got the field bunched up behind him. The sort of track also gives good overtaking opportunities, the slipstreaming opportunities here, and we can see a good race starting to develop.
Yeah, Matthew Hodges in the slipstream as Gary was speaking about it. It just unfolds in front of us here. Matthew up the inside of Gennaro Bonafide, and you can see the slipstream really taking effect. The very slippery shape of the Jetta is allowing Matthew Hodges to get up the inside of Gennaro Bonafide on the run to Potter's Pass.
Yeah, and I'd be worried about Henny Groenewald because Matthew certainly seems to be the man on the move right now, overtaking pretty nicely. And the second Jetta also now, Graham Nathan making his way past Gennaro. So we spoke about it before the race. With his Jettas at this sort of circuit, we were hoping it was going to suit them. In the race conditions, certainly looks like it is the case.
Well, you just saw that Gennaro was slightly offline in Potter's, probably didn't get through there as fast as he would have liked, and obviously car 21 one, Graham Nathan, had the hammer down and was able to sort of draft up the inside of him on the run through to Rifle Corner, and it was just basically curtains for Gennaro Bonafide. But Henny Groenewald now starting to turn on the screws to Michael Steven there to try and get past and try and close the gap towards Simon Moss.
You seem to be doing going into the complex. Maybe Michael also left the braking slightly too late, but Henny even later, and you can see fighting the car around the left-hander there, getting it into through the complex, and of course that all-important run up to Beacon.
Well, Matthew Hodges as well is closing the gap to Henny Groenewald without too much of an issue. So we're certainly looking at a good turn-off pace for Matthew's car, and in fact setting the fastest lap time in that particular race, even faster than Simon Moss. Henny now on the inside, and Michael Steven leaving the gap there. Great looking after the rules in terms of the driver conduct, and you can see that Henny Groenewald comes through and looks to be showing. And you see Matthew Hodges as well. So 2 passing maneuvers before the start-finish line on Michael Steven. Does he have a slight issue? We're not quite sure, but Matthew looks to be certainly good, and in the slipstream of Henny Groenewald as well, and Henny's not making it easy at all going into Potters. 2 wheels on the grass there. It certainly shows that the downforce is keeping these cars on circuit, Gary.
Yeah, and these two have been at it all year. If there's been an incident, it's generally been between Matthew and Henny, and they've raced hard all year. But I think Matthew can smell a good result here. He's not going to waste any time. As we said, the last championship round, and they want to make the most of it. You can see tucked up right up behind Henny. Michael Steven are actually having a look around the outside there as well.
Yeah, there are 5 GTC cars running nose to tail. This is what it's all about. The best drivers in the country doing the best racing and showing the best racecraft that we've been able to see here as well. And you can see Michael Steven as well, even still trying to get back. And Matthew Hodges really putting the pressure on Henny Groenewald. A massive turn of pace for this particular car.
Yeah, if looking for a way through, and you've got to believe now, with the straights, we spoke about slipstreaming opportunities. I do believe Matthew is going to find a way past, but I know from experience, Henny Groenewald, one of the hardest men to overtake.
Yeah, he's certainly not making it easy as well. And car number 12. Oh, massive moment for Matthew Hodges going through the turn. We did explain that a bit earlier. With the bumps there, you don't want to get the car sideways. And Matthew Hodges really got it sideways. Great car control, but now he has to defend into the corner. And Michael Steven's got a great drive out of Beacon Bend on the run to Potter's Pass. And again, making the pass stick before the start-finish line. Now, we've got 2 cars running side by side, Gary. If you look at the power here, not a hell of a lot of a difference between these 2 cars.
No, the cars look evenly matched. You've got to say all the cars looking matched in East London on these long straights. But that's the thing with these GTC cars, you've got to get it right. So in other words, we talk about going flat through Potters, flat out through the right-hander up to Beacon, but you've got to get it exactly perfect. If you're not, you're going to have what Matthew Hodges had there, and the car's not going to be able to go flat. So it's never easy flat, and I think that's the big thing, is the drivers, to make them do what they're doing, are really on the absolute limit.
On the absolute limit. So Michael Steven positions the car on the inside through Cochabana, and then you got now obviously Graham Nathan in close attendance to Gennaro Bonafide. Action aplenty for the crowd at the East London Grand Prix circuit. I think Matthew Hodges is going up the inside of Michael Steven into the complex as well. So you can see positions changing nearly at every single corner here.
Yeah, this is a great race, and this is what we wanted to see. Close racing is what it's all about, and what everybody's been looking for. But it's taken time for everybody to adapt and get into the groove of the cars, hook them up, and we can see everybody really taking the race to Michael Steven. He's had a fantastic year where he's just run away from a lot of races, but right here in the thick of it.
Well, I think that's what we want to see with GTC. Even the guy who's winning and leading the championship is still in the thick of the racing action with all the GTC drivers. Simon Moss, who we haven't spoken too much about, showing a clean pair of heels to Henny Groenewald.
Yeah, Simon having a good race, and as you said, it's shown a lot of potential, and not surprised to see him out there. Michael Steven losing the back end going into Beacon. If there's any doubt as to how hard Michael Steven is trying in this race, well, there shouldn't be any more. As you can see, going in there, just getting it to losing the back end on the way in.
Yeah, nearly collecting Matthew Hodges as well. I don't think Matthew would have been too pleased about it, but the other guys going at it hammer and tongs over the entire race meeting so far has been Gennaro Bonafide and Graham Nathan. Great to see Graham mixing it up with the guys. He hasn't had the best of years, but great to see this wheel-to-wheel action, and the guys driving very clean and respecting the actual driver conduct rules.
Well, that's what it's all about, just a respect for your fellow drivers, and you can have some great racing instead of just barreling into people and taking them out. But a good race for Graham, as you said, in the race. I think just enjoying, being able to compete and racing with the cars around him.
Well, great camera angle for Matthew Hodges as he starts to hunt down Henny Groenewald. And if my eyes are deceiving me, Gary, it seems like you're starting to close that gap down. Henny had a bit of breathing space, but Matthew has certainly got the turn of pace in race 1, and Thomas, I think corner by corner, lap by lap, is starting to hunt down Henny.
Yeah, and I think also just having that pressure now being alleviated, by Michael Steven having that spin, is allowing now just to focus his line. You can see the car exiting the complex a lot smoother this time. Very, very important, as we said, to keep it all smooth, get the maximum out of the car, and he can use that now to his advantage to try and catch Henny Groenewald in the closing laps.
Well, there you got Matthew Hodges getting up into Beacon Bend, passing Henny Groenewald. So we were 100% correct. It did certainly look like Matthew was closing the gap to Henny, and it was basically corner by corner, and effectively under braking, Matthew Hodges passed Henny Groenewald. You've got to say, great job done by Stuart Thompson Racing there to try and get that car onto pace. A bit of struggles on the Friday free practice, but I think session by session, that car has certainly got better and better, and you could see Hodges basically responding to whatever the team was able to actually hand him.
Yeah, and I think that's what Matthew's been looking for all year, is a car that's going to allow him to be in this position. I think also shown a great turn of speed a lot of the times, and we can actually see some smoke now coming out of Simon Moss's car. This is going to be nail-biting stuff for him. Third place in the championship on the line, and it's becoming heavy, Vic. There's
engine failure, Gary. I mean, that is massive. There's Simon Moss on the way, and then the run down to the complex, pretty much the last few laps of the race. I mean, a really difficult year for Simon. It was everything was going according to plan for him to get to P3 in the championship. A massive blow up, fire underneath the car. The oil is burning as well. Wow, I mean, that's quite spectacular, and I don't think the type of spectacular that the Engine Extreme team was hoping to have.
No, they've had a tough weekend. It's been engines in and out of cars all weekend, and I think just the nature of the circuit, East London, high speeds, long periods on full throttle, it's just taken its toll. Unfortunately, that has really knocked Simon's chances of third place.
Well, Matthew Hodges coming up to the final corner, Beacon Bend, with Henny Groenewald in close attendance. Is this going to be our third race winner in the GTC Championship? But Henny Groenewald cannot do anything about that Jetta, and congratulations and well done to Matthew Hodges and Stuart Thompson Racing getting their maiden win in the GTC Championship.
Yeah, well, it's taken them a while, but great to see the team coming home with the race victory as well, and just fantastic stuff for the entire team. Matthew Hodges as well, as I said it many times, has shown the potential. Great to see them bringing it home in first place.
Well, we have Matthew Hodges in winning the race, Henny Groenewald second, and Graham Nathan also from the Volkswagen team in third.
Well, it's a first win of the season for Matthew Hodges, a first win as well for VW, so a very happy team. Matthew, you must be ecstatic.
Oh, I'm extremely happy. Just for the team, for me it's great to win, but for the team it's more important. They've worked hard. We've had a really tough year. Things haven't always gone to plan, and we've been caught in the dramas of the season. So, I'm just really chuffed for the boys on the team and Volkswagen, and I can't be happier for them.
Well, the dramas that took place out there actually played into your hands.
They did, for a change. Normally I'm the one involved in all the dramas, but luckily things turned for us this weekend, and the team's worked hard. They've put a good package together with the car, so it was just there, and I felt we were strong enough to win, and it played into our hands.
You must be also chuffed with the fact that it looks like third in the championship is now yours.
Yeah, that's massive for Volkswagen. To finish third and on the podium, 3 different manufacturers, is quite something special. So from that aspect, it's really good. And once again, for VW, it's massive for them. For me, it's good, but for them, it counts more.
It's just hasn't ended quite the way we wanted to, but we still got one more race to change that. Unfortunately, on the warm-up lap, we had a problem with the exhaust cam, and had to drive at 11/10 just to keep up with the guys. They were passing me in a straight line like I was a sitting duck. So, I tried, on the brakes. Matthew went a bit wide, so I tried to dive from quite far back, and I was about to hit him, so instead of taking him out, I opted to spin. It wasn't going to be my race to win in any case, so rather avoid the crash. But there's another race coming up. We've made a change. Hopefully we can sort the problem out and fix the race results of race 1.
Welcome back. This is the final round of the Sasol GTC Championship taking place here in East London. We've just had the first race. What a race that proved to be, and really delivering from an excitement point of view.
It certainly was. I mean, it was a fantastic battle that developed, from second, third, fourth, fifth, everybody right in it there, people overtaking. And this kind of track lends itself to slipstreaming and the overtaking opportunities, and we saw a lot of that today. Simon Moss, unfortunately, had an advantage out in front, but lost that engine, and that was the misfortune. And I think in that, probably throwing away a solid third place in the championship.
Certainly also underlined the fact that everything needs to fire simultaneously on the day, and it just wasn't Audi's day.
It just wasn't, but you've got to commend the team for being here in East London. They've had a rough week. I think they've gone through 2 engines, really worked hard to get everything settled in, and when they did make their way out onto the circuit this morning in qualifying, both cars on the front of the grid, so they've got things right. It's just been one of those weekends for them.
Well, it certainly has produced some wonderful racing. We're looking forward to the second race that's coming up a little bit later, but let's take a look at the action from the production class, where Daniel Rowe has got everything sewn up, but Charles Smallberger, he could come in there with a little bit of the upsetting of the apple cart, I think.
Well, I think so today, certainly. I mean, qualifying was fantastic. The car's quick. I'm really happy for them. They've had also a difficult time after the crash at Kyalami, so to have that car going like it is today, he's going to want to make the most of it. And remember, the last time he was here, also had a huge accident in East London, so he wants to make that right.
Certainly does. Set the record straight here in East London. Let's bring you all the action now from the Sasol production class.
Yeah, we joined the Sasol GTC production ship race in East London at the end of lap 1. We ride along with Daniel Rowe, who is chasing down Devin Piazzamuso, and Charles Smallberger out in front in the GTC production race.
Well, I've got to say it was a great qualifying session for Charles Smallberger to be able to grid the car on pole position. Certainly he has got a great turn of pace at the East London Grand Prix circuit, but Daniel Rowe now starting to put massive pressure on Devin Piazzamuso. Mandla as well, bringing up the rear end there in car number 44 in position 4. So interestingly enough, you see Daniel now coming through Rifle, getting onto the brakes for Kokobana, and is he going to stomp it on the inside of Devin Piazzamuso, which he does, and Devin quite kindly gives him enough space there for him to go through there. But great to see that Devin Piazzamuso, Gary, we've spoken to him about him at the Swartkops race meeting, his first race there, now his second race at the East London Grand Prix circuit, and certainly holding his own with these front runners.
Yeah, look, I think certainly putting himself in a position, as a championship favourite for 2017, there's no doubt about it. I mean, he's arrived here, looks like he's been here all along and just going well. Charles Smallberger just having a great race. I mean, he's always been very, very quick at this track. Had a huge crash last year, we all remember that one, so I think no doubt we'll be looking to, certainly if he can win this race, I think well deserved as well.
Yeah, I didn't want to bring that up, Gary, because I didn't want to cause any problems for him later on in the race, but I must say Charles is driving a fantastic race. Great to see him there. Has had numerous problems during the course of the year, be it preparation, be it accident damage, etc., but great work by his father and his team, who was able to repair the car, and now the car is showing a great turn of pace. It's leading the race there and trying to hold off Daniel Rowe. Remember, Daniel secured the championship at the Swartkops race meeting, being the inaugural GTC production car champion, but it's great to see that there's other guys in the class who are certainly going to keep him honest in this last race.
Yeah, absolutely. We can see Daniel Rowe just dealing with a bit of oversteer through the mighty Potter's Pass. Of course, these cars don't have the aero grip, slick tyres and all the rest of it that the GTC cars have, so a lot more movement from the cars. You see Daniel Rowe really driving it through Potter's Pass.
Yeah, and you can see the top 3 cars of GTC production line astern going into Kokobana corner, and Charles is just going to try and keep it all neat and tidy, make sure he can get through all the brake markers, not run the car off the circuit, not run wide, because being front wheel drive cars, as soon as you go off circuit and you spin up those front wheels, you ain't going to get any traction, and then the guys behind you are just going to swamp you, as well as Devin Piazzamuso quite close to Daniel Rowe as well. And so these top 3 guys are certainly head and shoulders above everyone else in GTC production car racing at the moment.
Yeah, certainly so. Going through the complex, and you can see that gap sort of remaining the same. Also quite a lot of movement from Charles' car as he exits the left hand, and now he's going to go into that very, very quick right hand sweep and up to Beacon. You can see able in these cars just to take a little bit more road to the left in order to set yourself up for the right line going through the sweep.
Yeah, I must say Daniel is driving fantastically well, and certainly is our inaugural champion, dominated the production car championship. But overall, you've got to say that I think production car racing is in a very healthy state at the moment, and all these young drivers are really up here to try and take that mantle away from him in 2017.
Yeah, and it's not going to be an easy championship to win next year in 2017. We've got the Signature Motorsport team coming into GTC production with 2 minis, a couple other Golfs joining the field next year, and some other brands. So it looks like it's been exciting here. But race 1, Charles Smallberger, Daniel Rowe, Devin Piazzamuso and Mandla Mdakane taking the honours.
All right, let's catch up with maiden race winner Charles Smallberger.
Well, it's a first race win of the season for Charles Smallberger. Charles, you must be absolutely delighted in light of the fact of what happened at Kyalami and Zwartkops, where things didn't go according to plan. You've certainly bounced back in style.
Yeah, we put in a big effort, and it's glad to be back. Glad to be back in the front and dicing it out with the guys.
What were your impressions of the race as it unfolded around you out there?
Well, this East London circuit is very fast. I felt that the slipstream was incredibly fast on this track. I mean, turn 1 and 2 reach over 200 k's an hour, and then you get to the brake markers and you think you must brake where you normally brake, but because you get there so much faster, you miss your braking point. So had a lot to learn in the race, and it was a good dice. Myself and Daniel Rowe had a few passes, which was good, and hopefully we can have an amazing race in the second race again.
Yeah, race 2 in East London for the Sasol GTC production race, and of course up at the front it is close between all 4 Golfs, with Daniel Rowe leading at this point in the race.
Yeah, and obviously Charles Smallberger and Devin Piazzamusso in close attendance. Again, you know, Daniel Rowe setting himself apart from the rest of the guys. It's the last race of the entire championship, and he's dominated this championship, and really it's quite important for him to try and sign off the production car racing season as GTC race winner, GTC race champion, and teammate Mandalam Dekane running in 4th position. A bit off the pace this weekend, Gary. Didn't quite have the pace of these 3 front runners, but important for him to just try and bring it home without too much damage on the car.
Yeah, you just want to seal the year off comfortably and work on 2017 as we ride along once again with Daniel Rowe as we enter the complex, and looking smooth as usual out there in front for Daniel Rowe. I think a position that he's certainly used to this year, but Charles Smallberger, Devin Piazzamusso in close attendance.
Yeah, I think it's important that Charles and Devin Piazzamusso are kind of restoring their credentials. I think Charles has had a very rough year, and importantly he got that pole position, he got that race 1 win, and I think quite importantly now to try and make sure that he gets to the end of the race, the car shows the reliability, because this circuit taxes the machinery, taxes the engine, and if he can get to the end here without too many issues, you got to say that he's going to be quite optimistic for a strong 2017 season, maybe even try and challenge for that championship position.
Yeah, well, I think next year needs to be challenging for the championship. I think rumours are he's moving up to a Golf 7 as well to replace the Golf 6, which has served him well over the last couple of years, and I think certainly we'll find some time with that. But riding along once again with Daniel Rowe looking comfortable, going to Potter's Pass, Devin Piazzamusso followed by our GTCX race leader Owen Bridger in that Honda.
Yeah, I think Devin Piazzamusso as well, another guy, you know, we can't speak enough about him. Has done very, very well in the last 2 race meetings at the Zwartkops Raceway as well as at East London. Hasn't made any issues. I haven't known him to put the car off at any particular corner, and slowly he's improving his pace, getting stronger and stronger, following these guys. So as well, I would assume the Piazzamusso team is probably looking again at a 2017, a very, very strong season in 2017. But race leader Daniel Rowe, Gary, when you're driving the car, it must be a fantastic sight just to see a clean open track in front of you, knowing that you are essentially calling the shots. You are basically running this race in the lead, easy, and make sure you make no mistakes.
That's what you got to do. Just basically, the track like this, not outbreak yourself into, for example, Cochabana, Beacon, which have long braking zones, but I don't expect to see any of that today. I think the big opportunity here is for Devin Piazzamusso. Can he get into that slipstream of Charles Smallberger and put a move on him?
Yeah, Daniel does seem to have turned up the pace a bit, and he's slowly stretching his legs and getting away from Charles Smallberger. But I think if you look at Charles Smallberger versus Devin Piazzamusso, really a great race between the two of them. Charles is not getting away from Devin, and I think Devin is just trying to get and tuck in as close as possible to try and get that slipstream, get through Potter's Pass, and then maybe try for an outbraking maneuver into Cochabana Corner.
Yeah, that's where it's all going to happen if there is an opportunity. But as you quite rightly said, it's getting through here, Potter's Pass first, and trying to close up on the corner if you can. We see Daniel Rowe once again just getting a bit sideways through there, but you always said it, Vic looses fast, and Daniel definitely controlling the rear end of that car.
Well, I think it's quite important with a front-wheel drive car, Gary, just to make sure that the front end can get to where you want it to be, get to the apex as well. But Devin Piazzamusso is running very close to Charles Smallberger, and Charles taking the inside line. I'm not sure if that's kind of allowed in terms of the driver conduct regulation, but I think Devin is really trying to just show Charles, I'm right here. If you make a mistake, I'm coming through.
Yeah, we spoke about it there. He set that up going through Potters. Obviously got good drive there, and he's really been able to close the gap now. You know, going into the complex now, can he do much of the same now as they come into the complex? You see Daniel just taking the right amount of curb there, followed by Scholl, Devon taking slightly different lines, all three cars there, and you see Piazza Musso still right in the tail of Scholl Smallberger.
Yeah, I think if you look at that car, Piazza Musso's car, it certainly looks like it can turn a little tighter as well. You know, so he seems to be able to have a more positive front end there. That he can position the car where he wants to. I just think it's possibly just a little bit of experience, just trying to get through there, understanding where the passing opportunities exist. But again, you know, looking at this, car number 11, Daniel Rowe, championship winner and race leader at this moment in time, really setting the pace for everyone and coming to take the checkered flag for the final race of the 2016 GTC Production Championship season. Yeah, and Daniel Rowe dominating the entire season from start to finish. So a deserved winner, a deserved last race winner, and obviously hearing news that he will now be promoted into the GTC race team for the 2017 season. I think he's very excited. I think the team is excited to have a champion driver in that car as well. So congratulations to Daniel Rowe, and great to see a development path for Volkswagen Motorsport. So Daniel Rowe winning the race, Charles Smallberger in second, only 2.5 seconds behind. Devon Piazza Musso only a little bit more than 1.4 seconds behind him, and then Mandla Mdekane 9.8 seconds further back from Daniel Rowe. Well, the championship positions show that Daniel Rowe dominated the GTC Production Car Championship with his teammate Mandla Mdekane in second position, and then Charles Smallberger, Gary, rounding up the podium positions in the championship.
Yeah, he was followed by Sean Duminy in that Ford Focus, and Devon Piazza Musso making a fantastic debut in GTC Production. Let's catch up with Charles Smallberger.
Sean, a fantastic first race win of the season for you. You must be ecstatic. Tell us about the race.
Oh, a fantastic race. I'm so ecstatic, and just a big thanks to my dad and my team for getting us here. Yeah, the race was good. I had a great start. I think that was the main thing, and I got away, and I had to manage the gap from the front, and they were coming towards the end there, but I managed to hold them nicely.
We're with the race winner here, Matthew Hodges. Matthew, so much drama taking place in that race, but you managed to keep a cool head and get a first win of the season.
Yeah, what an awesome feeling, you know. I'm just so happy for the team. The team really, really needed this. Volkswagen have worked so hard to get the cars to where they are, and without them this wouldn't be possible, so this win is definitely for them.
Well, I'm joined now by a very disappointed Simon Moss. There was plenty at stake in that opening race. He led for most of it until the final lap. What happened?
Well, basically I had a great start to the race. I managed to get a good start, pull a decent gap, and I was basically, the last lap, I think I had 5 corners left, and I was just nursing the car, bringing it home, and then coming out of Cochabamba, my engine went pop, and there I was sitting like a little raspberry, watching the whole thing go up in smoke. Pulled over, and that was the end of my race. Unfortunately, yeah, like I said, five corners to go to take the victory, first victory of the season. It would have been... and then this happens, but I suppose next year's a whole new year, and we can take it from the start and work on it, and take all the momentum into next year and start with a bang.
Well, it's the 14th and final race of the Sasol GTC Championship of the 2016 season, and Michael Stephen and his teammate Simon Moss of the Engine Extreme Audi team has locked out the front row. Michael Stephen showing a clean pair of heels to everyone behind him, but really sad news, Gary. I mean, Simon Moss is not able to take up the grid slot due to that huge engine failure we saw in race 1.
Yeah, unfortunately that is going to be the case, so giving Gennaro Bonafide an opportunity to perhaps get alongside Michael Stephen going into Potter's Pass, but of course he's got to deal with Matthew Hodges, who's third in the grid, and making the most of the day, followed by Henry Groenewald in the second BMW and Graham Nathan in the final VW Jetta.
I think what we have to say is that the Volkswagen Motorsport team did a great job in race 1, got their maiden win through Matthew Hodges, but also Graham Nathan getting a podium position as well. So I think the team is trying to round off the year, especially with their preparer Stuart Thompson Racing, to try and round off the year and go into the off-season with a great set of results from the East London Grand Prix circuit, a circuit which, mind you, should suit the particular geometry of the car and the slippery shape of the Volkswagen Jetta.
Yeah, either way, you take results however you can. It's been a good weekend for them. It's something they really need. I think, solid foundations to work from going forward into next year. As we take the start to Henry Groenewald going down into Potter's Pass, we see the two jetters in close company and into Potter's for the first time. And it's Graham Nathan and Matthew Hodges look like they're coming together there.
Well, a massive crash there, and it's not something that we wanted to see. We thought that the race favourite, Matthew Hodges, was probably the one that was going to have a great chance to try and round off the year with a great result. But it certainly looked like Graham Nathan tried to slow down on the entry to Potter's. He was on the outside, Gary, trying to slow down and tuck in behind Matthew, but just got the timing wrong and clipped his teammate. I mean, that is sacrilege. You don't want to take out your teammate, especially if your teammate has a great chance of probably winning the race.
Yeah, look, very unfortunate. And I tell you what, at 220 k's now, you don't really want to be spinning backwards through that grass there. Used some of the escape road and, got the car to settle down again. But just unfortunate for that to happen in the first corner.
Well, Graham Nathan now is trying to put pressure onto Henry Groenewald going into the complex for the first time on lap 1. And again, also just leaving the braking a little bit too late and running over the curbs. I think being the last race of the year, Gary, the guys are not going to leave anything out there. They're going to leave it all on the racetrack to try and show what they can do and what possibilities exist to try and pass here. But again, running up to Beacon Bend at the end of lap 1, you got Michael Stephen in his customary position, and Gennaro Bonifidi, could you say, also the customary position, is the closest challenger to Michael Stephen, and these two are slowly building a gap to the rest of the field.
Yeah, had that clean opening lap, and I think it's allowed them that opportunity to open up that gap there. But you can see Michael Stephen just opening up a slight, having an advantage over Gennaro Bonifidi at this point in time. I think at this point in the season, Vic, it's every man for himself. The championship, you've got to say, is in Michael Stephen's hands. No issues there. Everybody just wants to go out here and achieve a race win.
Well, I think he's basically secured it coming into this particular race. So I think it's really, as you said, everyone for themselves try and get that race result as best they can. You saw Michael Stephen trying to weave a little bit on the start-finish line, went to the inside of the racetrack and then to the outside, maybe just trying to break that toe from Gennaro Bonifidi and to try and give himself as much breathing space as possible on the run down to Cocobena. We did say that in terms of racing here, from Beacon Bend all the way to Cocobena, 31 seconds of full throttle. There's no other circuit in the country that taxes engines as much. We've seen it as much with Simon's engine failure. We just want these guys to get to the end of the race now.
Yeah, you certainly do. And we've seen the oil flag up there, or should I say the slippery surface flag being shown by the marshals as well. Not too sure what that's all about, but drivers need to pay extra attention to that. But absolutely, East London, if there was ever an old school track, this is it. I mean, high speed has remained the same since the 60s basically. And I tell you what, every driver out there today just certainly being out in these cars on a circuit like this.
Well, we saw in race 1, Matthew Hodges coming out of the complex, the right-hander up the hill towards Beacon Bend, just got it a bit wrong, which allowed Michael Stephen to get up the inside and make the pass into Beacon. So these guys are going to take it a bit easier there in making sure that you don't get the car sideways. As you were saying, Gary, they are driving it fast. The cars are flat, but they're not easy flat. So these guys are going to make sure that the positioning of the car is 100% correct. They get on the throttle at the right time and try not to unsettle the car over the bumps as little as possible.
Yeah, and going through Potter's here now, same thing. You want to keep it flat. It's important to keep it flat. When Michael's been flat, since he got into the car, Gennaro also getting it right now. But you cannot afford to take your foot off if you're chasing somebody. The gap is just going to open up, and as you can see, it is increasing slightly between Gennaro and Henny as well.
Well, interesting setup factors that we've seen at this race circuit. The guys have been struggling with a little bit of high-speed understeer going through Potter's, but the problem is that once you start to dial that out, you get the slow corner understeer typically in corners like this, in Cocobena and in Beacon. So the guys have got to regulate how hard they press the throttle, how hard they come onto the power. But it's great to see these teams and the drivers working to try and resolve these setup challenges. Nobody said that GTC was going to be easy.
No, it's not easy, and it's been a learning here for everybody in just terms of and how to get the maximum out of these cars. But I tell you what, racing is always about a compromise. You're never going to get it 100%, and you always got to sort of work out, especially at a track like this, where is it the high-speed stuff that you want to focus on more? Is it the low-speed stuff? You're never going to get it 100%.
Well, I must say, it certainly looks like Gennaro is slowly starting to close the gap. Michael Stephen did a fantastic first lap. He was nearly half a second faster than anyone else. But as you can see, as the laps go on into lap 5, now halfway through the race distance, and Gennaro certainly looks to be closing that gap up to Michael Stephen.
Yeah, it definitely does, and this is where he really wants to work on it, get that great traction coming out of Beacon and utilise this long flat-out section all the way down to Cocobena to try and at least hold on or get into a toe if he can and close this gap.
Well, we certainly see that Michael Stevens is on the inside of the circuit, but he's slowing down, and Gennaro Bonafide passes him into the into Potter's Pass. So not a great end to the season for Michael Stevens. Quite a few errors that have crept in, but maybe it's the pressure of the championship basically off him at the moment. So essentially, he would like to end off the year quite well, but not to be this time round.
Yeah, as we said earlier on today, a tough weekend for the team. I know a lot of issues with Simon Moss's car, just getting it to the track on Friday, which was a job on its own. And then, of course, Michael had his dramas. So the team really this weekend, I think, apart from just doing the normal things, they've just spent their times getting the cars out into the circuit, and that's what made the qualifying this morning even more impressive from Michael Stevens. They haven't had that much time to actually set up the car, but unfortunately things not working for them, and as we can see, Michael Stevens now out of the race, which is, as you said, not the best way to end the season, but I'm sure we'll be relieved and happy with the job that he's done for 2016.
Well, the calendar as well didn't do many favours for the teams. Remember, they had a race 1 week prior to this at the Swartkops race circuit, then had to pack up, get all their cars together, and then get to the East London Grand Prix circuit for a race 1 week later. So it really taxed all the logistics and the preparation skills of these teams. So yeah, some teams will have issues. Some teams probably cope with it slightly easier than others, but at the end of the day, these are professional teams and they understand what the challenges were. So great to see the cars here and lining up and doing some fantastic lap times, and great show for all the spectators out there.
Yeah, it certainly was a tough week, there's no doubt about it. But as you said, top teams in the country, and just getting on with the job and getting the cars here. But the race out at the front now, I think, really calmed down a bit now. Gennaro got a comfortable lead to Henry Groenewald going through Potter's Pass once again. But no dramas for them. I think the big thing now for the BMW guys is, are these cars going to finish the race? This is now, for a driver sitting here in this position, you want to obviously take the victory, but now you don't start worrying about everything else. When you're in the heat of the battle, all those things are at the back of your mind. Now you've got time to think about what may go wrong when you're in this kind of position.
Well, yeah, you got 31 seconds to think about it, all the way down to Beacon Bend. And I think overall you got to say that the Sasol BMW team have shown some impressive reliability after some challenges at the first race of the season at the Swartkops race circuit, and probably well deserving of their 1 and 2 position on the racetrack at the moment. You got to see Gennaro Bonafide up there, but great to see Henry Groenewald now starting to get to grips with the car, showing the true class and skill of the driver, and essentially starting to run Gennaro very close in the last couple of races.
Yeah, that's what you want. You want the teammates to be able to push each other. So it's very, very important, I think, at this level of the sport, to have two teammates that are going to complement each other and push each other to go harder and push the limits slightly more on every occasion. But it has been a good last couple of races for Henry Groenewald. There's no two ways about it. But also, Gennaro, you've got to say, this year, the second half of the season was exceptionally strong. Managed to go a long way to closing the gap to Michael Stevens in that championship. Who's really, had a good couple of races. And you get to compare. Actually, we need to have a look at it sometime and just look at the second half of the season and just see how close it was, because I don't think that the points gap is a reflection of how competitive it was in the last couple of races.
This is a picture you don't often see, a stricken Audi Extreme or Engine Extreme car just trying to get to the end of the race there. So a bit of a hard sell for the team, but anyway, fantastic season for them. They cannot be unhappy with everything that they've achieved so far in the Sasol GTC Championship. Henry Groenewald slowly starting to close the gap towards Gennaro Bonafide. We saw a shot a couple of seconds ago where Gennaro was turning into Beacon, but it was almost like he was backing the car up, a bit of a rear brake lock-up for Gennaro. So I think he's quite happy that we're probably on the last lap and not many more corners to go to getting that win at the East London Grand Prix circuit.
Yeah, you'll certainly be happy with that. And obviously, throughout the race, drivers do need to try and balance the car and work with the brake balance. The temperatures are changing and so forth as the cars go through towards the end of the race. You can see Henry Groenewald still on it there. You can't give up any opportunity. You never know when something may happen. We've seen it happen this weekend to a couple of cars. You've got to keep pushing right until the end. You only need to win a race by a tenth of a second or less even to get the same amount of points as by winning it by 10 seconds. So all important for him to keep pushing right up until the finish line, yeah.
Well, we're on the final lap, the last corner of the last lap of the 2016 Sasol GTC Championship. The two Sasol BMWs coming almost line astern through Beacon Bend and running up through the gearbox, getting through to the start-finish line. Gary, as a racing driver, as a team, as a preparer, you must say that it's quite a, can we say, nice feeling to reach the end of the season with a race win.
Well, I tell you, it's a good feeling to win any race, and that's what it's all about. Any of these drivers can win races, and I think that's the thing here. Anybody in the GTC car is certainly capable of it, as we see the two Jetters taking the checkered flag for the final time in 2016.
Well, you've got to say Matthew Hodges did a great job closing the gap to Graham Nathan after that spin in Potter's Pass on the very, very first lap. Well, here are the results. Gennaro Bonifili winning the race from Henny Groenewald, only about a second behind him, and then Graham Nathan getting 2 podiums in a row. Matthew Hodges, Michael Stephen, and then obviously Simon Moss did not take up his grid slot due to his engine failure.
And here we have our championship positions. Michael Stephen in first place on his way to collecting that 200,000 rand check as the inaugural Sasol GTC champion, followed by Gennaro Bonifili, Matthew Hodges, Henny Groenewald, Simon Moss, Graham Nathan in the second of the VW Jetters, and then the 2 BMWs of Johan Fourie and Michael van Rooyen completing the top 8.
Michael, that second race, the 1 minute you were there, the next you were gone. What happened?
Yeah, it was just one of those things. We fixed the technical issue from race 1 and had a good start, managed to get a bit of a lead. And I think 4 laps from the end, changed to 5th gear down the straight and, everything shut off. So I thought race over, did a system reset and started and off we went again. And that happened, 2 or 3 times after that. So we'll have to look into it and see what actually caused it. But, when it's not your weekend, it's just not your weekend. Things happen in 3. So it happened in qualifying race 1 and race 2. So our luck's run out for this year, but we can start next year, with all the luck in the world.
Well, of course, already heading into East London, you were well in control of proceedings. This championship was always going to be yours. Reflect on the success of the year.
Yeah, we've had a really good year in terms of reliability. That's why also in the last race, I just wanted to cruise around and get the checkered flag.
Gennaro, victory coming your way in the second race. You must be delighted after what happened in race 1.
Yeah, a very good comeback there, I think, for the team and myself. We made a change for race 2, back to where we were after qualifying, and it made a big difference for me. Was much better through the slower corners. And, Michael had a great start, managed to get into second after the start. But Michael pulled away a little bit. We didn't quite have the pace to keep with him. Unfortunately, he had a failure in the car, which allowed me just to keep the lead away from Henny and bring the car home for another victory, the 5th of the season. Really happy after today. We didn't expect much coming into the weekend, and we've come up with a win.
Well, we've had great fun here in East London, and it does conclude the 2016 Sasol GTC Championship. We can hardly wait for next year. We did ask the drivers, though, to leave us with some of their best moments of 2016. We're going to play out with that, and we'll see you in 2017. Bye-bye.
I think in 2016, my Cape Town event was quite good for me, where I was quickest in all 3 races. I think I qualified second just behind Mark. And yeah, I showed great pace there, and finishing 1-2 in the first heat was something to remember for the season.
I think all the wins have really been a high, and we don't like losing, even if it's second, and we always just work harder to try fight back for the win.
And then Kyalami for me was top notch. I mean, a double win in Kyalami, pole position, that for me was just fantastic. At a racetrack it's technical, it's hectic, 14 corners, you got to be on it the whole lap.